This is our first meeting of the year, and it comes not in the shadow of emergency. It's our last meeting did, but in the light of responsibility. If urgency compels us to act at the close of last year, responsibility now compels us to think, to plan and to discipline ourselves for the year ahead. The calendar may have turned, but the consequences of our choices have not reset. They follow us into this year, demanding coherence, courage, and consistency. And it is on this note that I welcome you back to the drawing board. This moment in our journey calls for neither triumphalism nor despair. What it calls for is perspective. The Nigerian economy has traversed a difficult road over the past 1 year, but it has not traveled without progress. In 2025, our economy expanded by 3.9%, the fastest rate of growth in over a decade. Quarter by quarter, this momentum was evident. Growth strengthened from 3.13% in the first quarter to 4.23% in the second, before settling at 3.98% in the third. This is the outcome of hard decisions taken in difficult circumstances. And this is not a surprise, with a visionary like His Excellency President Ahmed Tinubu leading the charge. Yet, we must not confuse acceleration with adequacy. A growth rate of 3.9%, while encouraging, is not sufficient to decisively reduce poverty, generate jobs at the scale our population demands, or lift per capita incomes in a way that ordinary Nigerians can pay. With population growth at about 2.6% annually, this rate of expansion leaves us with little room to absorb inflationary pressures or external shocks. Our ambition, therefore, must be higher. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is a structural shift underway that deserves recognition. The non-oil economy has emerged as the backbone of our growth story. Today, it accounts for about 96% of GDP and is expanding at roughly 4%. Services, agriculture, and other non-oil sectors are increasingly carrying the weight of the economy. More importantly, non-oil revenues now contribute nearly 3/4 of total government collections. This marks a significant, if gradual, departure from our historic dependence on volatile oil receipts. The task before us is to deepen this transition through competitive manufacturing, export diversification, and private sector investments. But we must remain clear-eyed. Diversification is real, yet still fragile. We are entering a year defined by intense geopolitical realignments and economic uncertainty. As global powers assert their interests with renewed confidence, commodity markets will remain volatile. Oil prices, exchange rates, and capital flows will continue to frustrate our policies. This reality reinforces the urgency of fiscal risk management and the necessity of reducing our economic and revenue exposure to oil. On inflation, we have a genuine success to acknowledge. At the end of 2024, inflation exceeded 24%. By November 2025, headline inflation had fallen to 14.45%, with food inflation easing to about 11%. This decline of roughly 1,500 basis points in less than a year reflects difficult but disciplined choices. It reflects the administration's return to monetary orthodoxy, its focus on price stability, liquidity management, foreign exchange reforms, and the rebuilding of reserves. Yet this victory remains fragile. This inflation has been driven by a combination of base effects, monetary tightening, exchange rate reforms, and favorable supply conditions. A spike in global oil prices, renewed exchange rate pressures, or supply disruptions will quickly reverse gains. The Monetary Policy Committee's decision to hold the policy rate at 27% reflects this caution. For this Council, the message is that sustaining low inflation requires continued vigilance and, critically, fiscal discipline. Your Excellencies, our external position offers breathing room, but no relief. Foreign reserves now stand at above $6 billion. The current account is in surplus at around 6.1% of GDP. The Naira has stabilized within a narrower band, and the gap between official and parallel markets has compressed, restoring a measure of investor confidence. But reserves at this level provide only about 8 months of import cover. They are a buffer, but they are not a shield. The cushion can thin quickly if global conditions turn against us. Monetary policy has stayed firm to restore stability and confidence, and that firmness is working. Inflation is easing, and the path to gradual adjustment is opening, and the sacrifice has not been in vain. On the fiscal side, our deficits reflect real development needs, not indiscipline. They simply underline the scale of our challenges and the urgency of growing revenue, spending wisely and ensuring that every fiscal choice strengthens the stability this administration has worked hard to secure. Yet context matters. When national resources are spread across a population of this scale, it reinforces the importance of using every naira wisely and coordinating our efforts across all tiers of government. This is why this council remains indispensable as a forum where federal, state, and local fiscal strategies align. Our collective task is to strengthen revenue mobilization at every level, deepen cooperation, and ensure that our shared resources deliver the greatest possible impact for the Nigerian people. The recently enacted tax reform laws, which have gained from insights and criticism, provide an important foundation. They modernize our tax framework, broaden the base, and reduce fragmentation. But our laws do not collect revenue. Our institutions do. So implementation, enforcement, and compliance are the true tests ahead. Revenue agencies must be equipped, coordinated, and held accountable. States must align their frameworks. Political will must translate into administrative capacity. Finally, the medium-term expenditure framework commits us to anchoring deficits at around 3% of GDP. This is a welcome signal of discipline. But discipline is proven not in documents, but in adherence. Supplementary budgets, unchecked personnel costs, and rising debt service have historically weakened our resolve. Every additional naira spent without corresponding revenue is a burden passed forward. Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the agenda before us today reflects these realities. The presentation scheduled for this meeting by those at the center of this talk speak directly to our economic priorities, growth partnerships, subnational competitiveness, and the readiness of our tax reforms for implementation. Our task is to deliberate with honesty, coordination, and restraint. The year ahead will not reward improvisation. It will reward discipline. And Nigerians are watching, not for promises, but for coherence between what we say and what we do. Thank you, and may God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Today, at its meeting, the National Economic Council, which is the first in 2026, held a virtual meeting, today being Thursday, 15th January 2026, which is also on the day of our Armed Forces Remembrance Day. The meeting took place late in the evening to give our Excellencies, the Vice President, as well as the state governors to participate in honoring our fallen heroes. And thus the meeting, the virtual meeting, to set the tone for the year. And after discussing matters arising where the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy updated the Council on balances in the excess crude account